Okay, so we want to try and cover a significant amount of ground because we're going to lose a day with Tisha B'Av today. I was told by Yaakov, who did the daf yesterday, that you got all the way down to the last thin line on daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph. So let's start from there. We're talking about the principle of smicha, of smichas zakenim, of giving ordination to Talmidei Chachamim, which we've established has to be with 3 dayanim, and it can only be done in Eretz Yisrael. So Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Hoshia have a kamishtaked, Rabbi Yochanan lemismechina lo hava mistaya milsa, hava kamitzdayer tuva. There were 2 sages, Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Hoshia, and Rabbi Yochanan very much wanted to give them smicha, but for whatever reason it didn't work because he needed to get 2 other sages in addition to himself to have a beit-din, and it just never worked out that he could get them together, and it made him very upset. So Amrulei lo nitzdayer mar da'anan midebeis eli ka'asinan da'amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachman amar Reb Yonasan minayin she'eni smachin lebeis eli. So they said to him, please don't be upset, master. We actually are descended from the house of Eli, and the house of Eli had to sustain a curse because of the behavior of Eli's sons. And Reb Shmuel bar Nachman said, how do you know that those descended from the house of Eli are not worthy of smicha? That part of the curse that Shmuel gave to Eli because of his son's behavior is that there will not be a zakein in your house for all the days, for all posterity. My zakein. So what does that word mean? Elam a zakein mamish. If it's going to mean the word zakein meaning an elderly person, but v'haksiv kol marbis beisecha yamusu anoshim. Well, that's covered in the next pasuk. The next pasuk said, your whole household will die as men, meaning at a young age, and they won't be able to reach elderly age. They'll just, as soon as they reach the age of adulthood, they will shortly thereafter die. So ella smicha. So that means that even though the Beis Eli can become great Talmidei Chachamim, they will never be worthy of smicha. So that explains why it just didn't work out. Rabbi Zeira hava mitamir lemimsichei da'amar Rebbe Lazar lo'olam havi kabol v'kayom. That Rabbi Zeira initially tried his best to evade receiving smicha. Why? Because he had heard Rebbe Lazar's teaching, which was a person should always try to hide himself, be in the dark, and he'll survive. Meaning, don't try to pursue the rabbinate, because anytime you're put in a leadership position, you're endangering yourself, right? Because you get into trouble, right? So, Kevin Desham Lahada Amar Rebbe Lazar, Ein Adam Oil Legedula Elam Kein Mochel Kol Avonosav Am Tzilei Anavshe. But then later on, he heard another teaching of that same Rebbe Lazar, which was that any person who is elevated to greatness, that's a sign from heaven that he's been forgiven for all of his sins. So he said, then if I get smicha, that's a sign that Hashem has forgiven me for all of my previous sins. So he ran to try to get smicha. Ki samchula Rabbi Zeira sharu leihachi. And when they finally gave Rabbi Zeira smicha, he sang the people sang the following song, the following poem. So lo kechal v'lo sharak v'lo pirchos via olaschei. They said to him, it is not the cosmetics of the eyeshadow or the rouge or the pirchus or the hair cosmetics, but rather it is the inner true beauty. What they were making a metaphor. Just like when you look at a truly beautiful woman, you could say that it's not because of her cosmetics that she's beautiful, but because of really who she is. Same thing they were saying to Reb Zeira. None of the external trappings of being a rabbi or wearing the long coat or the big hat or the long beard, that's not what makes you Reb Zeira. It's the real Reb Zeira inside. Ki samchula Rabbi Amila Rabbi Asi sharulu hachi. Kol mindain smuchulana. When they gave smicha to Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, they sang as follows. They said, anyone like this is worthy of getting smicha from us. But lo tismechulana lo misar mitin velo misar misin v'amri la lo mechamisin velo mitur misin. But let us not have anyone receive smicha from us who is from the sarmitin and the sarmisin, which Rashi says the language of sarmitin is people who constantly change their position or distort their position. Or sarmisin, people who are ragged, which means that they don't explain themselves properly. Or and some say chamisin and turmisin. Chamisin from the language of Hamas, that they withhold Torah teachings. And turmisin means, even though here Rashi doesn't explain, other places he says that it means empty people. But there's different explanations of what the translation of those words are. Rabbi Yavo ki hava asi mimesifta lebe kesar nafki matrunisa deve kesar misharyan lei. That when Rabbi Yavo, after he left the yeshiva, many times he had political obligations to curry favor from the Caesar. So when he went to the Caesar's palace, I don't mean he went to Caesar's palace, I meant he went to the Caesar's palace, right? So the matron of the household over there, they would, I guess the custom was when they would greet important people, they would recite a poem, a lyric, right? And so they recited as follows: Rabba de ame matbarna du umse botzina de nahora berich masyach lishlam. They said, Master of your nation, leader of your people, the flame of the lantern, may your coming be in peace. Okay, let's go on to the next Gemara. Arifas egla bishlosha, or agala bishlosha. When you break the calf's neck, you need a beit-din of 3 judges. Now, just an important observation, which should probably be obvious by now, but I just want to make sure everyone understands it. All our Mishnah does is it cites the number of judges, but it doesn't tell us the quality of judges. Sometimes the judges have to be specifically from a certain subset of people. Sometimes they have to have a certain knowledge base, right? So not always does the Mishnah tell us. Just because the Mishnah says shlosha, it doesn't mean specifically which kind of shlosha. So you'll see how this is relevant as we go along. Tanu Rabbanan v'yatzu zekenecha v'shovtecha zekenecha shnaim shovtecha shnaim ve'in beit-din shakol nosifam le'od echad arei kan chamisha divrei Rabbi Yehuda. In yesterday's daf, we saw a very similar machlokes as far as how many dayanim you need in order to confess the sins of the people in a case of a par helam davar, when a korban chatas is brought by a congregation for sinning. There too, Rabbi Yehuda said 5 and Rabbi Shimon said 3. And here you have the same machlokes by Egla Arufa. Do you need 5 or 3? So Rabbi Yehuda says 5 because the words zekenecha and shovtecha are both used in this pasuk. So zekenecha implies a plurality. Shovtecha implies a plurality. That's 2 plus 2, you get 4, but you can't have an even number, so you round it up to 5. Rabbi Shimon Omer zekenecha shnayim ve'in beit-din shakol nosifam le'mod echad arei kan shlosha. And Rabbi Shimon just looks at the word zekenech, only teaches you that they have to be from the Sanhedrin. Ela me'ata v'yatzu shnayim u'madadu shnayim l'Rebbi Yehuda reitish l'Rabbi Shimon shiva. But one second. We know that when there's a plural verb, in the past we've used verbs to teach me an added plurality of people. In the next pasuk it says v'yatzu zekenecha v'shovtecha and umadadu el ha'arim. So if you learn 2 from zekenecha, 2 from shovtecha, you should add another 2 from v'yatzu and another 2 from umadadu. Right? It's all part of the same pasuk. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, it should be 5 plus 4, which is 9. And according to Reb Shimon, who says that zekenecha v'shovtecha only teaches me 3, but add an extra 4, that'll be 7. So either way, you don't have 3 or 5. So the Gemara says, no. Hahumi boile l'chidetanya, those 2 extra verbs do not teach me an added number, because they teach me separate halachas. What do they teach me? As the Brisa says, v'yatzu hein v'lo shluchan, umadadu shafilu nimtza ba'alil li'ir tzarech lasok b'medid. So there are 2 things. The first word, v'yatzu, teaches me that it is the judges themselves who are obligated to go out and make the measurement. They can't send a proxy to do the measuring for them. They have to measure themselves. Umadadu teaches me, that extra word teaches me, that even when it's self-evident, what's the purpose of measuring? You find a corpse outside a city, so the Torah says measure to make sure he comes from this city. He's closer to this city than any other city. What if he's just 100 yards outside the city, and the next closest city is 10 miles away? So you don't need to measure. It's quite obvious that he came from this city. But nonetheless, the Torah says umadadu. No, they still have an obligation to measure. Okay, next. So therefore, those words, biyatz umadadu, do not teach me numbers, they teach me separate halachas. Next, masnisin deloki haitana, our mission does not go like the following brisa. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, v'yatzu zekenecha v'shovtecha zekenecha zu Sanhedrin, v'shovtecha ze melech v'kohen gadol. He says that in addition to requiring members of the Sanhedrin HaGadol, you also need the king and the Kohen Gadol to be part of the Egla Arufa process. Now, our Mishnah clearly does not hold that way, but at least we see another shita. Melech tichsiv, melech b'mishpat yamid eretz, Kohen Gadol tichsiv uvasela kohanim aleviyim ve'el hashofet. And where do we see that the word shovtecha includes a melech and a Kohen Gadol? The answer is because both a melech and a Kohen Gadol have psukim that associate them with mishpat, with justice. And that's what a shofet is. He's justice. He's all about justice. The pasuk by melech is melech ba mishpat yamid eretz, that the king will establish justice in will establish the earth with justice. And a Kohen Gadol says, by Kohen Gadol it says, if you want to know what the halacha is, you go to the Kohanim and to the shofet that will be in those days. So we see a natural association between the Kohen and the judge. Ibaylu, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, b'chada polig o b'tarte polig. The melech v'kohen gadol polig of all b'sanhedre ikar Rabbi Yehuda ikar Rabbi Shimon. O dilma b'sanhedre nami polig domer kula sanhedrin be'ina. So here's an interesting question. We know that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov argues with our Mishnah and requires, in addition to the Sanhedrin, he requires a king and a Kohen Gadol. But does he agree with either Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon that you either need 3 or 5 members of the Sanhedrin HaGadol, or maybe he argues on that also. Maybe when he says the word Sanhedrin, he means that you need all 71 judges of the Sanhedrin to be part of the Egla Arufa process, and therefore he completely disagrees. And there's no point of commonality to our Mishnah. So let's see if we can answer this question. Amar Rav Yosef Tashmas. Rav Yosef says, well, let me see if I can prove it from the following brisa. Mitzana beis pagi v'himra leihen yochel te'amra sahamra tamulomar v'kamta v'alisa l'hamakom v'lamed shahamakom gore. Period. There's a brisa that talks about a zakein mamre. What is a zakein mamre? It's a Talmud Chacham who openly, publicly defies the authority of the Sanhedrin HaGadol. The Sanhedrin HaGadol paskins X, and he publicly declares in front of them, you're wrong, the halacha is Y, and on my authority, I hereby instruct the public to not listen to the Sanhedrin. The Torah says that such a person shall be put to death. We can't have that kind of insurrection against the authority of the Sanhedrin. So what this brisa undertakes is, what happens if he defies the Sanhedrin, not in their normal place of convening in the Lishkas HaGazis in the temple, but rather he meets them in Beis Pagi, which is in the outskirts, or right on the edge of the city of Yerushalayim, and he rebels against them there. Is he liable? So the brisa says no, because the Torah says v'kamta v'alisa el hamakom, that when you wish to seek out the Sanhedrin, you shall rise up and go to their place. So that tells me that the authority of the Sanhedrin is associated with their place. So if you defy their authority anywhere else, you're not a zakein mamre. So denafu kam. So now the question is, well, when this zakein mamre met the Sanhedrin, how many of them did he meet? Ilema miktsasan dil mahanach diika gavoy kaimi kavase. Maybe you'll tell me that he only met a small portion of the Sanhedrin outside, right? And he says, I defy you. But that can't be, because if that were the case, then who's to say that he's a zakein mamre at all? Maybe the rest of the guys that are convening in the Lishkas HaGazis happen to agree with him. So you don't forget about the fact that he's in the wrong place. He may not be a zakein mamre at all because he's not defying anyone's authority, because who knows what the rest of the Sanhedrin hold. Elapshita denafu kulu. So we must conclude that he's defying the authority of the entire Sanhedrin, and therefore all 71 he encounters at the outskirts of Yerushalayim. So, lemai. So now the question is, what is the entire Sanhedrin doing on the outskirts of Yerushalayim? Ilema lidvar harishos, maybe they're going stam for a spatzir, or they went out to get a drink, or who knows, right? They just went out for a little social gathering. That can't be, because matzu nafki, they're not allowed to leave their place of convening, because v'haksiv shorerecha gan hasar al yatzar hamozeg. The pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, it's a little difficult to translate, your navel is like a gan hasar, some kind of beautiful ornament, and it will never be lacking the mazeg, the duly constituted amount. But from that pasuk we learn that the Sanhedrin is never allowed to vacate or recess from its chambers entirely. You can never have during the daytime when the Sanhedrin is convening, there always has to be a representation there. So how could there possibly be 71 judges outside the Sanhedrin? So elapshita ledvar mitzvah, so it must be that they left to do a mitzvah. Then you could justify it. So heichi dami, lav lemedina segla, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he damar kuli Sanhedrin boina. So under what circumstances would an entire Sanhedrin be needed to do a mitzvah? So it must be that this price, he goes like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who says you need the entire Sanhedrin to perform the Egla Arufa ceremony. And this therefore proves that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov requires all 71, and this agrees with Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, who say either 5 or 3. So Amar le Abaye lo, kagon shiyatz lo osif alo hir v'al azaros, kidanan, ein mosif an alir v'al azaros, el bevesin shel shivim ve'echad. Abaye says not necessarily. It doesn't say that what kind of mitzvah they were going for. Maybe really an Egla Arufa ceremony doesn't require all 71. But they were going for a different mitzvah. Our Mishnah says that whenever you want to make an annexation, you ever want to expand the boundaries of Yerushalayim, or you want to add on to the courtyard structure of the temple, you need 71 judges to ratify that. So maybe that's what they were going out. They were going out to the outskirts of Yerushalayim to see about annexing another portion of land outside Yerushalayim to make it part of the city. Maybe that's what they were there for. So you have no right that, but they were going for an Egla Arufa. So nevertheless, Tanya Kavasi de Rav Yosef. We nevertheless have a brisa that supports Rav Yosef's contention that according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, you need all 71 for the Egla Arufa. As it says, Matzana beis pagi, v'himra alein kagon shiyatzu lemedinas Egla losif alohir v'alazaros, yachol shetei hamra so hamra tamalomer v'kamtovi alisa lamakom v'lamit shahamakom goring. This brisa says explicitly, what were the entire 71 judges doing in Beis Pagi in the outskirts of Jerusalem, where this Zaken Mamre finds them and he defies them? They were going to do a mitzvah. And the example of the mitzvah that they were going to do is either for the Egla Arufa or for annexation of the city of Yerushalayim. So you see that in both cases you need the entire Sanhedrin of 71. So that proves that what Rav Yosef was saying was correct. Weiter. Neta Ravayu Meiser Sheni Shein Damav Yeduin B'Shlosha. The Mishnah had also said that if you have produce that is tithed, that needs to be taken up to Yerushalayim for consumption, the two examples are Neta Ravai, produce from a tree that's in its 4th year of growth, or Meiser Sheni tithes. So you either can bring the produce itself, or you can pass the value of the produce onto coinage. Now, what happens? So the Mishnah says that if there's no way of ascertaining at face value, prima facie, you can't tell the true value of the produce, you need a beit-din of 3 in order to valuate it properly before you can pass it on to coinage. So the question first is Tanu Rabbanan, Ezehu Meiser Sheni Shein Damav Yeduin? What is the definition of produce that you can't see at face value what it's worth? The answer is Perush Shehirkivu v'yayin shehikramu mos shehechelidu. The answer is we're talking about produce that is already rotted. So you can't easily determine its value. That's why you need 3 experts. Or if it was converted into wine and the wine developed a scum on the top of the wine, so you see that it's gone bad. So you can't tell what it was originally worth. Or let's say they already transferred the Meiser Sheni produce onto coins, and then the coins became corroded and rusted away. And we need to transfer it onto new coins. But we don't know what the original coins were worth because they're all corroded. So in all of those cases, we need three experts. So Tana Rabban and Meiser Sheni Shein Damav Yeduin, Podin Oso Bishlosha Lukuchos, Avolo Bishlosha She'inon Lukuchos. Afilu Nachri Echad Mehen, Afilu Echad Mehen Ba'olim. The Brisa tells us that here the three experts do not have to be great Talmidei Chachamim. As a matter of fact, even if they're Talmidei Chachamim, but they're not expert produce merchants, then they're not usable. They don't have to be scholars, but they do have to be produce merchants. They have to know the trade. And therefore, any three experts who know the trade, even if they're not Torah scholars, can be used for this purpose. And even if one of them is a Gentile, that's okay. And even if one of them is the owner of the produce, that's also okay. As long as you bring two other people to evaluate it with him, that's perfectly fine. So, boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Shlosh, Omaitinu L'toch Kisechad Ma'u. So Rabbi Yirmiyah then asked the following question. What would be the halacha if you have three people who are called upon to evaluate it, but they all have financial dependence upon each other? Let's say they're business partners. So therefore they share a bank account. Can they be used to evaluate this fairly? So Tashma ish ushtei nashav podin meiser sheni shein damav yeduin. So we'll look at the Brisa. The Brisa says that even a man and his two wives can do that. Usually a man and his two wives share a bank account. So you see that is legitimate. So the Gemara says, no, not necessarily. Dilma kagon Rav Papa ubas Abba Surah. So even in the times of the Gemara, there were women who were independent, right? So Rav Papa had a wife whose name was the daughter of Abba Surah, and she was independently wealthy. She had a totally separate bank account. So maybe that's what the Bryce is referring to. So you have no raya from there. Next, ha'hekdeshos b'shlosha. When you want to redeem something back from hekdesh, so we said, first of all, according to the Tanakama, you just need three people. They don't have to be three Kohanim. None of them have to be Kohanim. They just have to be three people. And Rabbi Yehuda had come along and said that one of the three has to be a Kohen. And then when it came to Karka, it seemed like everyone agrees that with Karka you need 10, and one out of those 10 needs to be a Kohen. So let's take a look now. So Masnisim Deloki Haitana. So first of all, our Mishnah does not agree with the following brisa. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Afilu Tzinor Shel Hekdesh Tzrich Asar Bnei Adam Lifdosa. That even if you want to just purchase back a little fork from Hekdesh, you always need 10 people to evaluate it properly. Our Mishnah says only 3 for metaltalin, so you see it's not consistent. Amalei Rav Papa le Abaya Bishlam le Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov da Omer Kishmuel da Omer Shmuel Asara Kohanim Ksuvim beParsha Ela Rabbanan Shlosh Shamin Alahu. So the question is now, where do we get this number 10? Where do we get this number 3? So I can understand the number 10 because Shmuel had said that if you look at the end of Sefer Vayikra, where the laws of Erechin and Hekdesh are written, the Torah over there uses the word Kohen 10 times. Rashi says it's really 11, but one of the times the word Kohen is used is not for valuation purposes, but when it comes to valuation, the word Kohen is written 10 times. There are 3 times when the word Kohen is written by the laws of Erech Adam, where a person pledges his value to the temple. There's another 3 times where the word Kohen is used when a person pledges an animal to Hekdesh. And then there's another 4 times when the word Kohen is used to describe a person who pledges real estate to Hekdesh. So, but you get the total of 10 times the word Kohen is written. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov at least makes sense why you should need 10 people in order to redeem something from Hekdesh, because of the 10 times the word Kohen is written. But according to the Chachamim, where do you get the number 3 from? So that's v'chitema dichsiv b'hu shlosha kama. Well, maybe you'll tell me like this. Look at the number of times where chattel is discussed, and the word Kohen is written by chattel, and you'll find that it only says the word Kohen when it comes to pledging animals. And it's the word Kohen is written by pledging animals 3 times. Remember, I said 3 times by Erechin of an Adam, 3 times by pledging animals to Hekdesh, and 4 times by real estate. Well, animals is an example of chattel, so therefore it's written Kohen over there 3 times. That's where they get the idea that when you redeem it back from Hekdesh, you need 3 people. But wait a minute. But karkos tichsiv behu arba tiski ba'arba. But by that argument, the word Kohen is written 4 times when a person pledges real estate. So you should only need 4 people to purchase back karka from Hekdesh, and yet our Mishnah says you need 10. So make up your mind. So v'chitema hachanami, maybe you'll tell me that taka is the halacha that you only need 4, but then alama t'nana karkos tisha v'kohen. But that's not what our Mishnah says. Our Mishnah says you need 10, and one of them has to be a Kohen. Elamai the mishalmi behu asara hekdeshos. So the answer is elamai the mishalmi behu asara. Period. Gemara says, well, then what are you going to say? You have to say that it's a cumulative effect. That you accumulate the number of times the word Kohen is written, and by the time you get to karka, it's written now 10 times. 3 by Adam, 3 by Behema, and 4 by karka. You add them all up together. Well, if that's the case, hekdeshos the mishalmi behu shisa libo shisa. But if that's the case, then when it comes to pledging animals to the temple, you should need 6, because you have to take them up cumulatively. 3 by Adam, 3 by Behema, that's 6. So make up your mind. You either isolate the topic in question and look how many times the word Kohen is written and use that number, or if you're saying it has a cumulative effect, and that's why you need 10 for karka, then you should need 6 by Behema. So the Gemara says, kasha. You're right, we don't have an answer for this question. We still don't know where the Chachamim get this number 3 from. It should either be 10 or it should be 6, but we don't know where the number 3 comes from. Next, ha'erchin, so my erchin. So the Mishnah had used a very strange language, because it says that when it comes to erchin, if you're pledging erchin that are metaltalin, you need 3 judges. Now the problem is that erchin ha-metaltalin is an inaccurate language. There's no such thing as saying, I hereby make this book erchin to Hashem, and then obligates me to give a set value by the Torah. The Torah only assigns set values to human beings based on age and based on gender. And that's the definition of what the word erchin means. I can make a book hektish, but the term erchin only applies to a value that is assigned by the Torah to a human being based upon age and gender. So this whole language doesn't make any sense. So what does that mean, erchin hamitaltal? Chattel that is erchin. It doesn't make any sense. Then what does it mean? So Amar of Gidol Amar Rav, Ba'omer erich kli ze alai. Amar of Gidol Amar Rav, Ba'omer erich kli ze alai no sein damav. My time Adam Yodea shein erich likli the Gomar the Amar l'shum damim mishum hachi no sein damav. So the answer is that Rav Gidol holds that even though you phrased it improperly, what you really mean to say is that I hereby pledge the value of this kli to Hashem. And therefore the kli now becomes hektish. Because even though you used an inaccurate language, everyone knows that there's no such word erchin that's applicable to a kli, to a vessel. And therefore what you really meant to say is that this kli is hektish. And therefore when you want to redeem it back from hektish, you need 3 people to evaluate its value. That's what it means. Because no one says things for no reason. So you meant to say hektish and you said erchin instead, and that's how we interpret it. So the Gemara says, but wait a minute, if that's the case, hi erchin hamitaltalin, erchin shel metaltalin mi bayale. But the language of the Mishnah then is imprecise. If it's really that it's items that were made in, that were declared to be erchin, that are chattel, it should not have said erchin hamitaltalin, it should have said erchin shel metaltalin. That things that were used with the word of erchin that are metaltalin. That would have been a more accurate language. So the Gemara says, you're right. Tani erchin shel metaltalin. You're right. That's really the way you have to read it, because the words erchin hamitaltalin implies that they are actually erchin that are movable. Well, that's nonsensical. What you meant to say is that he made a declaration of erchin upon metaltalin. And so that's the way you have to read the Mishnah. So that's one way of explaining our Mishnah. Rav Chisda Amar Avimi b'matvis metaltalin le'erchin. He says another pshat, says Rav Chisda. What we're talking about is a person who says, I hereby pledge my value to the temple. And like Rashi says, V'nischayev erech chatzuv lefi shanav, v'haya lo metaltalin. And he had metaltalin, v'amar, harei elu le'erchi, v'chola aleim kedusha. So what happened is that he basically said, let's say his value is 30 shekel, based on his age and his gender. So he pledges that amount, and then he says, oh, I have these gold Kiddush cups that are worth 30 shekels, I'll give them to Hektish. He gives them to Hektish as a payment of his pledge, and now he wants to redeem them back. So when you redeem them back, that's what the Mishnah means. You need 3 people for Erchin HaMitaltalin. So the Gemara says, Hi Erchin HaMitaltalin, Mitaltalin Shel Erchin Miboile. But there too the language is imprecise. It should have said Mitaltalin that were used to pay an Erchin pledge. But that's not the way that's not what the Mishnah says. So the Gemara says, no, Tani Mitaltalin Shel Erchin. That's how you have to actually read it. That's really what the Mishnah means. Rabbi Avohu Amar, Ba'omer Erchi Alai, Ba'koin Lagabus Mimena Mitaltalin B'Shlosha Karkos Basar. And Rabbi Avohu says that no, we're not even talking about a person who wants to redeem back an item that was made hektish already to the temple. We're talking about a person who pledged that he himself, I pledge my erchin value to the temple, and then he simply doesn't pay it. So the Kohen comes along as a representative of the temple and now has to seize his property. When we seize your property for payment of your erchin pledge, we can either seize your metaltalin or we can seize your real estate. If we're seizing metaltalin, we need three people present to valuate it fairly, and if we're seizing real estate, we need 10 people to valuate it fairly. So Amarle Ravacha midifti leravina bishlam alafu kime hektish ba'inin shlosha ela le'ilu iyule lehektish shlosha lamali. So the question on Rabbi Avo is that up until now, all we've seen is that when you want to buy something back from hektish, you need professional valuators, and you need either 3 or 10. But where do we ever see this concept that when you want to take something into hektish, you need 3 or 10 valuators? That's a new concept. Where do you get that from? So Amar Le Svarahu, Mali Iyule, Mali Afuke. Afuke my time a dilmatoi, Iyule nami dilmatoi. He says, well, it's only logical. Why would I think that when I want to take something out of hektish, I need to evaluate it? What's the whole logic of valuation? It's to make sure that I'm not cheating hektish and I'm not cheating the person who's taking it from hektish. Well, the same thing is when I want to bring something to hektish. I have to make sure that if I made a certain pledge of a certain value, that what I'm giving is not going to be less than, or not going to be more than, for the sake of both parties. So it's only logical to say that just like when you redeem something from hektish, you need professional valuation. When you bring something into hektish, you also need professional valuation. Next, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Chulei. So Rabbi Yehuda says you need 3 valuators, but one of them has to be a Kohen. And on that he argued with the Tanakama. Amalei Rav Papa le Abaye Bishlam le Rabbi Yehuda anu dichsiv Kohen ela le Rabbanan Kohen lama luhu kasha. I can understand why Rabbi Yehuda requires a Kohen, because the pasuk having to do with Erchin says vehericha Kohen osa, the Kohen shall evaluate it. But according to the Chachamim, why is the word Kohen written at all if you don't need a Kohen? The Gemara says it's a kasha on the Chachamim. We don't have an answer. Next, hakarkos tisha v'kohen. You need when you want to redeem real estate back from hektish, you need 10 people. One of them has to be a Kohen. So minahani mili. Where do we get this from? So Amar Shmuel asar kohanim ksuvim beparsha chad legufe hana chavu miyat achar miyut vein miyat achar miyut ela lerabos de'afilu tes Yisrael ve'echad Kohen. It's a very interesting answer. Remember I told you, Shmuel said the word Kohen is written 10 times in that whole section of Erchin and Hektish. So he says, that tells you that you need 10 valuators when it comes to Karka. But why only one Kohen? So the first time the word Kohen is written is to tell you that a dafka has to be a Kohen. But whenever you have one miyut that follows another miyut, a miyut is like saying X is excluded. But if you have a double excluder, it changes into an includer. It's almost like a double negative. A double negative is a positive, right? So if I have Kohen written twice, so then it means that even a non-Kohen can be used. So the first time Kohen is written to tell me that a dafka has to be a Kohen. Every subsequent time that Kohen is written, it's like a double negative, and it tells me that the other 9 can be non-Kohanim. So maskif lo Ravuna bereda Rav Nasan ema chamisha Kohanim v'chamisha Yisraelim kasha. But one second, by that argument, you should argue the following: if 2 negatives make a positive, so then first Kohen tells me he's got to be a Kohen, second Kohen non-Kohen. But then let's start all over again. 2. Every time you have 2, you should have 1 Kohen and 1 non-Kohen. So the total should be 5 Kohanim and 5 non-Kohanim, not 1 Kohen and 9 non-Kohanim. So the Gemara says that also is a kasha. We don't have an answer. Va'adam kayotze bahen. Then the Mishnah had also made a cryptic statement that when you want to purchase back a human being from Hektish, so you also need to have 10 people, and one of them is a Kohen. So Adam Mikadosh, since when does a person become Hektish? Now here the assumption is that we're not talking about an Eved. And now an Eved can become Hektish, but the word Adam implies a free person. And that's why the Gemara says, since when can a free person be Hektish? So Amar Rabbi Avohu Ba'omer Dami Olai. We're talking about a case where a person said, I hereby pledge my value, my true value, not my erchin value that's based only on my age and gender, but based upon my true value of what price I could fetch on the slave market. The Tanya, as the Brisa says, Ha'omer Dami Olai, Shamin Oso Ke'evet Hanimkar B'Shuk, that when a person makes such a pledge, we, let's say, Bill, you pledge your value to the temple. We would take you to a slave trader, and we would say, how much money could you get for Bill on the open slave market? They would tell us how much he can get, and that's the amount that a person has to pledge to the temple. And so what the Mishnah is basically saying is that valuation has to be done with 10 people. That slave market valuation. So the Eved Iskash Lakarkos, why 10? Because anything that holds true by Karka holds true by Avodah. Because of a long-standing connection that we know in the Torah between Karka and Avodah. So Boy Rabbi Abin, Seyar ha'omei ligazos bekama. Kegazos domiu b'shlosha o b'kemechuber domiu v'asara. Rabbi Abin asks an interesting question. What if a person pledges the value of his hair to Hektish? I hereby pledge, like a woman, many times women that can sell their hair, right? So what if a woman pledges, I hereby pledge the value of my hair to Hektish? Now, is hair considered to be part of the human body, and therefore it needs 10 people to evaluate it? Or since it's about to be cut off, it's like disconnected already from the body, and therefore it's like any other chattel which needs only 3 judges. So Toshma, Hamakdish is Avdo Ein Mo'alin Bo, and Rishmin Gamliel Omer Mo'alin Bisaro. That there's a machlokes, what if an Eved is Hektish, and then I use him for personal use? Am I liable for Me'ilah? So the answer, according to the Tanakama, is never, because just like if you take Karka that's Hektish, you're not liable for Me'ilah, which the Torah says you have to bring a carbon if you use it for personal use. But that only applies to chattel, not to real estate. And therefore, since there's no Me'ilah for real estate, there's no Me'ilah for Avodim as well. But Reb Shimon Gamliel disagrees, and he says, no, there is the possibility of Me'ilah when you use an Eved for personal use, if you use his hair, even when it's connected to his body. So basically, we see that according to Shimon Gamliel, hair is considered to be disconnected from the body if it's ready to be cut, because that's why you can be liable for Me'ilah, even though it's part of the human body, but it's viewed as disconnected, and therefore it's not like karka, it's therefore like chattel, and therefore the machlokas as to whether you need 3 judges or 10 judges for evaluation of hair would depend on this machlokas. And this is where we'll hold it for today. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. When you have, you said that you need two sets, two different appraisals. So when you bring something, an old item into, you said the example for 50 shekels. You say that, let's say the 30 shekels.
Excuse me.
If you put it in, it's, when you want to redeem it, you need another appraisal. It's
right.
not according to rebus.
What's that?
Rebus, that because at the beginning maybe it's 30 shekels, but we wanted to redeem it, the value changed.
Sometimes, very often the value changes. Either the market value has changed or the item has depreciated because of age. or any other reason.
This doesn't fall into rebus, like making profit.
No, not at all. Because it's a sale. You're selling it, you're giving it, and buying it back.
It again.
Did we lose? I'm sorry, we lost our minion. I apologize.